Welcome back to 15 Minutes of Fame. Today we're diving into something colourful and unmistakably Australian. A brand new film called The Deb, which is also a musical, and Rebel Wilson's directorial debut. Now, going into this, you might wonder, can Rebel Wilson pull off directing a full-blown Australian musical? The answer is, yeah, she's actually got the chops. The Deb feels like it's cut from the same fabric as Muriel's wedding dress, mixed with that small-town charm and quirkiness that Australian cinema does so well. It's got heart and just enough sparkling tunes to keep you hooked. The story centers around a Sydney-based high school influencer who gets shipped off to her cousin's rural hometown. At first, she's completely out of her element, especially when she discovers the local obsession with a Deb ball. But instead of just surviving the experience, she flips it into content, deciding to document everything through a tell-all podcast about the town. This makes some of the town folk more than a little pissed off. It's a solid setup, because it naturally creates tension between city and country lifestyles, and it lets the film lean into both satire and sincerity. Sure, some of the scenes are predictable, and yes, there are a few familiar Aussie tropes sprinkled throughout, but it's still an enjoyable ride. A big part of what makes The Deb work is its two leads, Natalie Abbott and Charlotte McGuinness. They bring real energy to their roles and strong singing voices, especially when the pop songs kick in. And speaking of music, the score by Michael Yezerski and Meg Washington really carries the show. I found it infectious and was happily humming along, much to the annoyance of the woman beside me, who was gobbling down popcorn. There are a couple of standout numbers. Spotlight is one of them. It's bright, pop-driven, and full of confidence. It really captures that moment when the characters step into who they want to be. Then there's Bitch Ball, which is cheeky, a little biting, and packed with personality and verbal punch. It reminded me of the Jets number from West Side Story, and it plays with gossip and social tension in a way that feels both funny and sharp. The supporting cast deserves some applause. Co-star D'Angelo brings good looks and a lot of charm to Dusty, giving us that classic Aussie romantic lead energy. Charlotte McGuinness as Maeve holds her own beautifully as the city slicker, and there's more than a nod to Muriel in Natalie Abbott's touching performance as the country girl who is looking for a date to the Deb. And then you've got Tara Moise, who some of you might remember from Strictly Ballroom. She's warm and inviting here. Shane Jacobson also pops in, adding some extra wholesome flavor to the mix. Rebel Wilson even makes a small appearance herself, which is a nice little bonus. But more importantly, behind the camera, she shows a strong sense of style and a firm hand. The film looks great, with some really polished cinematography that elevates the whole outback setting. Sure, it's a little long, and corny at times, and there might be a few too many F-bombs in the lyrics to please the conservative musical lover, but to be honest, I loved every one of them. What's interesting is that Wilson has spoken about how films like The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert and Muriel's Wedding inspired her to make The Deb. And you can definitely see that influence, if she's aiming for that same blend of humor, heart, and bold visual storytelling, just updated for a more modern audience. Does The Deb completely reinvent the musical genre? Not really. Does it say anything new? Not at all. What it does is deliver a feel-good, musical experience with a lot of charm and a clear love for its Australian cinema roots. And for a first-time director, that's a solid achievement. You may have read about this. There has been some legal tension behind the scenes, with Rebel Wilson and the film's producers currently involved in litigation over aspects of the production. The dispute hasn't overshadowed the final product, but it has certainly added an unexpected layer of drama around the film's release. So if you're in the mood for something light, musical, and distinctly Australian, The Deb is definitely worth your time and money. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it around. This review was written by Noel Anderson, and you've been listening to 15 Minutes of Fame.